Welcome to One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on this episode, it is singer Graham Bonnet. We talk about his new The Book album. We also look back on his career since You've Been Gone, Rainbow, Alcatrazz, Michael Schenker, and a lot more. Before checking out Graham, please check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON, One on One Mitch Lafon on Facebook, and paypal.me/Mitch Lafon, should you care to support the podcast. And with that, here is the one, the only, one of the greatest voices in rock, Sir Graham Bonnet. We are speaking with Graham Bonnet. The new album is The Book, coming out in November. A pleasure to speak with you, Graham.
Hi, it's nice to be spoken to.
Yes.
How are you?
Good. Absolutely a thrill for me to speak to somebody who has such a long history in rock, a long pedigree going, all the way back to 1968 is when you first got started, right?
Yeah, that'll be, my cousin and I were in a duo. We were called The Marbles. A horrible name, I know. But we had a record out back in 1968. It was called Only One Woman, and it was written by the Bee Gees for us, especially because my cousin used to work with the Bee Gees when he lived in Australia. He was a guitar player, come backing vocalist, whatever, and he has his own career. But it was because of Barry Gibb and Robin and Morris that I really got started into the music business as such, properly, So thank you.
I actually, as prep for this, I was watching some of the old clips, and it was quite amazing to see that you started doing that kind of duo thing with the acoustic guitars, and then ended up singing for Rainbow and for all these other bands. But yeah,
I know. Who'd have thought it, huh?
Right. So let's talk about the book and the new music first, and then we'll get to the re-recorded classics after.
Okay.
Sitting down, you've done all these different bands. You're associated with a certain style. What did you want to put together with this album? What was sort of the vision going into it?
Well, I wanted it to be, the continuity to be sort of correct, the right way to go, the right path to take, the right road to take, whatever it may be. I didn't want it to sound too sort of obscure and weird, because at first thought, I thought, well, let me make up something that's really kind of jazzy and weird and strange chords and stuff like that. But then I realized I can't really do that on an album like this. So I stuck pretty much to the direction that I took with, let's say, the second album of Alcatrazz with Steve Vai when he was our guitar player. I tried to think in that kind of mode, where songs would be kind of modern sounding, but still have a little touch of maybe the 1980s in there as well. But I was very wary of, the people that do actually listen to what I've done, so I have to please the people that are listening, and so that's what I tried to do. And I hope I did okay.
And you hope you did okay. How important is it for you at this stage to actually create new music? Because you could go out there and put your name up on the marquee and say, hey, it's an evening of Alcatrazz and all these other bands that I've been in. Why the need to actually go through the effort of putting together new music?
Well, because I got so fed up with just doing that, with going out and just like doing karaoke or something. I know everybody knows the songs and everything. I've played with so many different musicians over the past, however many years it is since I left Rainbow and Alcatrazz ended, and it was getting a bit stale, So I thought, why not have a new band and start recording again with new songs? Because I'm always making up some music or other all the time, every day. There's something in my head. But then have to go on the road and sing the same old Since You've Been Gone and All Night Long, whatever it may be. But that's okay. That's okay. But I wanted to show myself, apart from, people who may listen to what I've done, that there's still, I've got a lot of songs inside, that I need to release, I guess. And it never ends. I'm always creating something, always coming up with an idea, or a story, or a riff, or a chord sequence. I never stop writing, I guess. And it drives me mad sometimes. I can't sleep because of it.
Yeah. I was speaking to Gary Shea yesterday. He happens to be a friend of mine, and he was talking about how in 2017 there's going to be a Graham Bonnet band show, and there'll also be a special Alcatrazz set. Talk to me about that event, and is that something that you hope to do more of? Do you hope to get back on the road and do more Alcatrazz?
I don't think we'll be back on the road to do more Alcatrazz. This sort of reunion-ish thing we've talked about for a couple of months now, and that seems pretty cool because my band will be playing, and then maybe Gary and because Jim. At this point, we're talking about next year, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 2017.
So at this point, Jimmy Waldo might actually be in the band physically, my band, because he played keyboards on the album. And but for this sort of get together, it's just going to be a one-off. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but I want to, if I can, get away from the Alcatrazz kind of vibe. It's been too long, 30 years of singing the same songs, same with Rainbow. But I know I have to do them. There are certain songs that I will never, take out of a set. They're always going to be there. There's always going to be certain Alcatrazz songs that we're going to have to do. We do quite a lot now. But I really wanted to record new songs, and I have like 2 albums in my head right now that I want to get on with next.
Is there? Because I sense there's a sort of a frustration of doing some of the older material. Is there a frustration?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Because it's you want to sit down. You know what I mean? You get bored with anything eventually, and it's you lose the enthusiasm for a song. That's one thing. When you first record something, you want to make it special and do the best you can. Sing it the best you can, play it the best you can, and it's. The enthusiasm sort of leaves you after about 30 years of singing the same bloody songs. It's like, oh my God, here we go again. But now I see that people do enjoy those songs still, and they're kids. You're getting young people coming to the shows, and they're teenagers. You're thinking, how the hell do they know these songs? So I've got to incorporate, the old stuff with the brand new stuff. We're going to do, from the new album, probably three new tunes, and the rest will be a bit of MSG or Alcatrazz or Rainbow, a bit of everything.
A bit of everything. Now, you did, of course, Assault Attack with Michael Schenker, and the album came out. There was supposed to be a tour. It didn't go as planned, but recently you got to come back and sing with Michael at sort of the Michael Schenker Fest. Talk to me about that event, and is it somewhat cathartic to finally say, okay, we've put this sort of bugaboo behind us, and
Yes.
Okay.
It was a great relief actually getting through the first rehearsal, because I thought after all the bullshit that went down way back then, when I destroyed myself on stage basically in front of a whole audience and started acting like a complete idiot when I never got through the whole show and was fired from the band, quite rightly so, on the very first gig with MSG. It was, to actually look at Michael in the room and go, I'm actually singing this song all the way through with you. And I saw the broad smile on his face, and he said, we did it, Graham, we did it. So it was like yesterday, without all the arguments and, confrontations and whatever else was going on at the time. Because back then I was a terrible heavy drinker, and we all took a few too many chemicals. It was a bit of a mess. Not just me, the rest of the band too, but I was the one that messed up mostly because of the first gig. But to play with Michael now again is fantastic. I played with him now this year probably 3 times.
Is that a relationship that, because of sort of the history of it, you want to explore more in the future and say, hey, maybe we should try sort of an Assault Attack #2, or maybe we should try a 15-show run, or you've sort of been there, done that, and, good on you, mate. Let's keep moving.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind doing an album. That'd be great, but, my main thing now is my own, band. I want to develop, a lot more than it is already, and experiment a little bit more with songwriting, etc. But to do something with Michael recording-wise, I've done a couple of things with him in the past, over the past few years, and it's great. I mean, he's such a great writer. He's very unusual for a guitar player. He doesn't what I call show off too much. He's very much song-oriented, so he puts all the sections of a song together, and they sometimes take a left turn when you think they're going to go straight ahead. So he's a very clever player, really is, and I'd love to do something recording-wise.
Yeah, Michael's great.
Earlier,
earlier this month in October, a couple of albums that you did in the 90s got re-released as expanded editions. Blackthorn, Afterlife, and then the second one that had never come out, but Don't Kill the Thrill, got released also. Talk to me about those albums, because I mean, it was sort of a super group. You had Bob Kulick, who had played on the Kiss albums, without anybody knowing. Frankie Banelli, Chuck Wright, which essentially are Quiet Riot now. Talk to me about those albums and what happened. Why didn't the band continue?
Well, it was a very difficult time, I can tell you that. We were, I wasn't sure it was the right way to go. I didn't particularly like some of the songs we were writing. I wasn't sure that they were good enough or bad enough or whatever, or heavy enough or light enough, whatever it may be. And it was I spent, let me think, it was about 8 months away from my wife and kids at the time. And it was awful to be away that long and doing a few gigs here and there and also recording. And we had a disagreement on how I should sing songs or whatever. They should be sung this way or that way, the way the voice should sound. And I just said to Bob, he was one that was kind of like, you got to sound like this guy. No. I said, look, Bob, it's me singing. I can only sound like me. And we just didn't get on very well in that respect. Apart from that, he's a great player, no damn doubt. And the band was good, but there was a little bit of a friction between he and I, and that's the reason it didn't carry on. I was living in Australia at the time. I lived there for about 3 years, and so the commute was huge to come back and rehearse with Blackthorn in LA. So it became like a natural thing to do. It was like, I can't do this anymore. It's killing me. I was never home, and the kids were missing me. They were very young at the time, and I was missing them. I was missing feeling comfortable and not being told how to sing in a stylized way that I didn't want to do. And so I just said, well, I'm not coming back. I'm going to stay in Australia and become an Australian citizen or something. But it just wasn't working out, unfortunately, because the band was great.
Yeah, and I've actually listened to both expanded editions that came out earlier this month, and they sound absolutely phenomenal. Whoever cleaned them up did a spanking job. I mean, they sound great, and it's almost a shame that there's not a third album or another version, because anyway. Some of the guitarists you've played with, we've mentioned Michael Schenker, we just mentioned Bob. Of course, Richie Blackmore, Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Vai, Vivian Campbell, and Slash on The Day I Went Mad. Talk to me about some of those guitars. Is there, and I know it's an unfair question, but is there one of them that is favorite to you, that where you just, your voice and his guitar just works?
I think there's two, actually.
Okay.
There are two people I loved. Michael is one, and Steve Vai is the other. Because they are more creative in their writing, because a lot of the times I get a chord sequence from a guitar player, and then you put a lead vocal on it or whatever. And they're very much into the songwriting and how the vocal should fit. And Steve was very, very good with that. I mean, I worked with him every day on the second album we did. And but with Michael, he just said, Graham, do whatever you like. Michael would send me a track that was probably like 10 minutes long, which we'd have to edit down to, at least 4 or something. But he had all these great sections, which I would say, we should keep this bit, I can put a nice melody on that or whatever. But those two, I think, to me, are the most creative guitar players for whatever reason. There's something they have that a lot of guitar players don't have. They can all go really, literally all over the place, play fast and all the rest of it. But then there's the thoughtful guy who actually structures a song in a really good way.
Yeah, and it's got to be exciting to play with all those guys as well.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, yeah. All of those guys. I mean, I can't say anybody's the favorite, really.
Right, it's an unfair question.
I enjoyed writing tunes more with those two guys because it was, I don't know, it just sort of came easier to me. We were both on the same page, I think.
Yeah. 1976, Russ Ballard released an album called Winning, which had Since You've Been Gone on it, and it didn't really do a lot for him. It's really sort of become your song. How did that song come to Rainbow? You know, did Russ submit it, or did you guys just hear it and say we should cover this? And sort of walk me sort of through the history of how it's just become I mean, you did it with Alcatrazz, you did it with Impellitteri, which I can never pronounce, and all the
Impellitteri, yeah, it's a silly name.
Yeah, I know. Really, I mean, when you have a rock band name, it's got to be like Coke or Pepsi, or you've got, you know.
Impellitteri, what the hell's that?
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Talk to me about that song and how it exists and how it came to be, and just because it really you know, nobody thinks it's Russ Ballard's song. It's Graham Bonnet's song. It's your song.
It's Rainbow.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Well, what happened was it was the great idea of Bruce Payne, the manager of the band, saying to Richie and the rest of the guys before I even joined the band. This was all planned way before I got the job with the band. You know, all the tunes have been recorded. A lot of the tunes have been recorded except for Since You've Been Gone. And he had this idea that it was about time Rainbow were played on the radio. Because nobody knew who Rainbow was. They knew who Deep Purple was, kind of thing, but nobody knew Rainbow. And so this was a very radio-friendly song, and we heard a version of it by a girl band called Clout. And I heard, I thought, no, really? And it was left till like last. It was the last thing we did before, you know, we actually put it down. And then he was right. Bruce Payne was absolutely right. It broke the band, I think. It made everybody listen. And as you say, now that has become, even though Russ wrote it, it's become a Rainbow song. It's very recognizable and very sing-alongable. But it's a great pop song that we did our own spin on, you know?
Yeah, and it's been sort of the cornerstone to everything you've done in a sense, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's just
I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Exactly.
It's a powerful song. Let's look at Down to Earth for a second. So you get the gig, you get the job, you get hired. Going into the band, you know, they had Ronnie James Dio, they had sort of that sound going. What was your take on it? Were you just, I'm going to come in here and just sort of be Ronnie number 2, or did you say, okay, we're going to change this, How did you see yourself coming into Rainbow? What was sort of your role or your expectations?
Yeah. Well, I heard I didn't know who Rainbow was, as I'm saying. You know, they were never on the radio and stuff like that, like Deep Purple were. So I had to go out and buy Rainbow albums because I was going for this audition. I had no idea who Rainbow were, what kind of music they played, or nothing. So I learned one song called Mistreated, which wasn't really a Rainbow song, but it was called Mistreated. That was my audition piece. And I listened to the rest of the album, and I thought, well, this is not really what I'm into. I don't sing this way. I don't sing those kind of songs about, you know, wizards and whatever it may be, you know, castles and dragons and mystical beings, you know. If I sing a song, it's usually about love or something very simple and straightforward, nothing, you know, nothing too mystical. And I thought I wouldn't fit. But I went over there and auditioned. They gave me a job. I looked wrong for a start. I didn't have the hair and the stuff, the uniform of a so-called heavy metal or heavy rock singer. I didn't wear that gear. I wore the 1950s suit with a tie. And I was into R&B and pop music. But what happened was Richie he remembered me from my first record, Only One Woman, back in 1968, and they were listening to some tracks when they were recording in Switzerland, and he said, what's happened to this guy? And Roger Glover happened to be working with one of my friends, Mickey Moody, a guitar player, and they got in touch with me, and that's how I got the audition. But I thought I was totally wrong. So I went back home to London, and they said, when are you coming back? I said, what do you mean I've got the job? They said, you got the job after you sang that song first time through. Because they made me sing it 3 times. Just to make sure, I guess. But it was, God, I'm glad I did, because it opened a whole new world for me, to be honest with you, a whole new genre of music.
Looking back on your career, as you've gone through these different bands and stuff, are you overall satisfied with the career you had, or is there something that you're still looking for and still striving for? You still want to be this kind of singer or that?
Yeah, I'm sort of in the last category there. I'm still looking for that guy that I'm really comfortable with, and it's The Rainbow was very close, and Alcatrazz is very close, some of it. But I'm always looking to do something that isn't sort of the norm, a little bit unexpected, because I love R&B music. I love that kind of stuff, and pop music. If it's a good pop song, I love pop songs. I love all music. And when you're in a so-called heavy rock band, you're kind of stuck in that drawer of being heavy rock singer, and that's it. But I am a singer, period, and that's it. I'm a singer, and I'll sing whatever you put in front of me, basically, if I like it. And if I can make up a song that's really interesting to me and I can put it out there, I will do that, In fact, what I'm doing now is working on some songs that aren't so-called heavy. A couple of them are, but the rest of them are very probably jazz-influenced and sort of straight rock influenced, not necessarily heavy rock. But because I want to make an album like I did possibly in the 70s, before I joined Rainbow. I had some solo albums that I did like a little bit of every kind of music. I'd like to do something like that again.
In fact, going back, just since you mentioned the solo career from the 70s, do you at all regret having joined Rainbow and Alcatrazz and gotten away from being Graham Bonnet and sort of become, the guy in that band? Or are you glad that you made those moves?
Oh, yeah, I'm glad. I mean, it was a good move. But at the time, I didn't think it was. But my manager in London, when I joined Rainbow, he said, "You've got to do this, Graham. It's perfect for you." I said, "But I don't fit." He said, "You will." And eventually, I guess I did. And it was Alcatrazz I put together in my garage, and that was a labor of love putting that band together. Me and Jimmy Waldo and Gary Shea. And it started with the three of us. And I'm looking for something new. I haven't found it quite yet, but I probably should have stayed with Rainbow another year or two and not quit like I did, and probably should have stuck with Alcatrazz a bit longer. But it fell apart because we lost our guitar player, Yeah. We lost all our guitar players. They all went on to higher reaches and whatever, became guitar heroes. What can I say? Bloody guitar players, damn it.
I know, they always have to move along. So let's
I know, yeah. So they all get their solo careers and they don't need the band anymore.
But I gotta say, like we mentioned before, you've got an incredible sort of golden hand. Anybody who sort of stood to the right of you on the stage who played guitar became the next big thing. So if I was a new guitar player, I'd want to go be in your band for a couple of months.
Okay. But I hope that works. I hope that doesn't work. In fact, I want to keep a guitar player for a change.
Right.
Instead of them, so I'm leaving next week. I've got a solo to do. Oh, okay.
You want to keep Conrado in the band with you?
Yeah, I'd like to keep this band together for at least another year. It would be nice. No, I'd like to keep it together permanently, right. Because I think we're all learning from each other. We're all developing some kind of a sort of a band sound, and if people keep leaving, that sound goes as well.
It goes as well.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. And let's finish with that with the book. Let's look at the second disc, the re-records. Was it important for you to sort of reappropriate those songs and put sort of your stamp and this band's stamp on those songs and say, hey, these are ours now?
Yeah, well, it was important for the band to actually put their stamp on the song. But for me personally, it was hard work to actually say, I'm going to record this and make it sound like it did when I was 30 years old, and I had all the enthusiasm of a 30-year-old guy singing "Since You've Been Gone" again, which I've been singing songs, for like 30-something years every night, and it's like, oh damn. Now I've got to record it and put it under the microscope and make sure the vocal is good, or as good, near as good as it was in the past. And I can't listen to that, to be honest with you, the new recordings, because I always think the first recording is the best, because that's when you have the most energy and you want the song to sound the best it can, so you put more effort into it. You know what I mean? And it's hard to get that same inspiration again after all these years. But I've been told by people that have listened to it, it ain't too bad. Some of the tracks are better than others, but I've been told it's pretty okay.
Yeah, in fact,
the band is the most important thing.
I've had a chance to listen to it, and I think it sounds great. I mean, take away the fact that it says, these are re-records. You could actually think this is a second CD of 16 songs by this band, And,
okay.
listen, I think it sounds great. And since you just mentioned your voice and you didn't sound, you were concerned about sounding like you were 30 years ago, is your voice a concern these days in the sense that, as we all get older, we don't run as fast, we don't throw a baseball as fast. Do you have concerns on your voice? Do you do anything to sort of keep it in top shape?
No. I've always had concerns with my voice ever since I was a kid because it's not always there, and I sing with great gusto, as you probably know, and it's loud and unnatural the way I sing sometimes, and of course it ruins my voice sometimes. I get a croaky throat or whatever, and of course I use a lot of lung power, and I'm asthmatic, and being asthmatic and using the lung power I do, sometimes the notes don't quite place in the right area where they should be. If I lose air, a note will go out of tune or it will croak or whatever. But I don't look after myself the way I should probably. But my voice hasn't changed. I've been very lucky. I can still sing the way I did, more or less, I think. If anything, my voice has gotten a little stronger. And it's kind of cool that that's happened at my age, It's very rewarding because a lot of my peers have quit singing altogether because they've lost the vibe, the thrill of singing.
Absolutely. And I know you have an interview coming up in 2 minutes, so thank you for today, and hopefully we'll see you in Canada at some point.
I hope so. It's one place I've never been. I'd love to be there, to come there. I'd love to bring the band. Absolutely.
Well, I certainly can point out a couple of clubs that I know that I can get you over, so we'll keep
let
in
us
contact.
know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let us know because that's always interesting to us because we're trying to play more in the States as well. And we've lost contact. I've lost contact with a lot of people here because that's why we're always playing overseas. And we need to play more here. And Canada, never been there. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, well,
so please keep in touch with our manager. I guess you've got his.
Yeah, absolutely.
His email and everything. Yeah.
I'm a sort of a silent partner in a club up here, so we can make something happen. That's for sure.
Oh, that'd be great, man.
Absolute pleasure, and I do.
Okay, yeah, likewise.
I do need to see this band live, and I do sort of recommend to anybody listening, buy this album, the book. It is really, really good stuff. I've heard the whole thing, and it's another home run. It's another Graham Bonnet home run.
Thank you. That's really nice of you to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham, and we'll talk
All
soon.
right, bud.
Bye-bye now.
All right. Take care now.
Cheers.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And there you have it, folks. My chat with singer Graham Bonnet. The new album is The Book. Please do check that out. I have, and it's quite spectacular. While you're checking stuff out, please check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, Facebook, one-on-one, Mitch Lafon, and paypal.me/Mitch Lafon, should you care to support the podcast. And with that, I bid you a fond farewell. Bye for now. Oh my.